Well, I'm into a 170B here. I'm going to put on the tail of this a T3 suspension. This comes off of out of ABI up in Alaska Airframes, or also comes manufactured by a place called Super Cubs North in Maine. Dan Alaska will answer all your questions. And so this particular tail on this 170 is kind of like a Cessna 140. You look at it, it's riveted on, whereas other 170Bs have a tail wheel like this here. So after couple passes through the U.S. Postal Service, we got the correct one, and this one here goes on like this. We may use hardware instead of rivets. That remains to be seen, but it goes on about like this. Somehow, some way, you can tell it's a little bit different than the tail wheel that's on there already. I think that it's got a baby bush wheel coming too, and that might help out in how it sits. But taking that tail off is a pain in the ass. I put it lightly. This has the Franklin in front, the Toy Tony horse, and here is this goes in the horizontal. I don't know how many pounds that is, but man, that's ballast, I guess, is what you call it. But taking that tail off was not too fun. But we're going to get busy tomorrow. We'll drill all the rivets out, and then I'll probably replace the rivets with hardware structural screws, AN 525s or something like that. Make it a little bit easier. There's also a funny little discrepancy here. There's a little bend right here, as you can see, but there is no bend in this. So how's that supposed to work? I'm not too sure. We'll find out. My faithful assistant has now drilled out the tail. As you can see, it had all sorts of different size rivets in it. I think it was taken off once before. There's also a little corrosion caught underneath a crack. We'll have to address that, figure out what to do there. And we'll clean it up, put a little primer on it, and see about sticking the new thing on there. Looking good. Ran into a little issue. Imagine that. Here we go. As you can see, something's not working. Something doesn't work. Mystery. Let me try again. Maybe I was wrong. Nope. Gotta think about that one a little bit. See what Dan's got to say. So we put the tail wheel on, and I had to do a little bending of the metal here, and I'm still a little out of whack. I'll have to true that up a little bit later. But we got the some bolts in, and we've drilled all these. But I haven't drilled these yet. We have a little bit of a compromise over here. There's a crack that was here. It must have been from an old tail wheel landing, and there's a little crack on this bulkhead in here. So we may do a doubler on the outside. And then we'll use all fasteners, I believe, to put this in. Probably AN 525 screws or something to that effect. But it's looking to be pretty good. We got the ABI baby bush wheel on there, and it looks pretty beefy. It sits about the same as the other tail wheel. Now, the tail wheel angle is kind of wrong. It's too much like this. It needs to be a little bit more like this. The plane in here is a little too steep. I like to see it like that. But we'll work on that. So we got to looking at this tail, and it had a little compromised crack. You can kind of see it right in here, crack up here, and so we decided to put a doubler on there. We're just going to put, this is just 020, 020, and we're just going to put this doubler in here, and that'll help beef that whole thing up. I mean, we're putting on this super duper tail wheel, right? We might as well beef this up because this is going to be the next weak link. By putting this 20 thousandths on here, it's not real thick, but it'll strengthen this whole part up really nice. Give the tail some more strength back there. Had to drill some holes and got to trim a little bit, but that's what we're going to do with that. I think that'll add some stiffness in there. Won't look too bad, but it'll definitely beef up the tail wheel attach points, which is good. Well, back to the T3 Super Tailwheel suspension kit. I put this doubler in on the tail of the 170B here. It'll strengthen everything up. It had some questionable problems previously, so by putting this doubler on, it basically brings the thickness of the metal. It's only 20 thousandths, but on top of 32, that gives you a pretty stout tail now. Of course, you know, the guys put these things on so they can bash through the boulder fields on the gravel bars. This one I had to change the pitch a little bit here. These two still aren't parallel, but I'm going to tweak them a little bit. I also had a discrepancy down here at the bottom. This has a curve and this doesn't. So I got a gap here, and I had to actually built a little wedge. I don't know if you can see it down there. A little wedge so that my hardware would sit flush and parallel to this plate. I got some, I'm going to put it all together with structural screws, and you know, it should do a good job. They're on their way to an STC on these, and by using a previously installed 337, I'm able to do this with a field approval. And my local Visto guy went through his checklist and said there would probably be no problem, so that really makes me happy. I don't think I've gotten a field approval in a while, but it's slowly progressing. We're going to leave this bare. The owner wants it, he's going to paint it himself or something like that, but getting pretty close. He got himself a bush wheel tail wheel for it, you know, and he's got these super duper shocks, and you know, look at, he can reach back and tighten up his suspension a little bit if it feels a little loose. One of the things that'll be interesting to see is the position of the tail wheel, and I'd like to see it a little bit more like this, but shimmy and stuff like that. Yeah, it's all that black magic stuff. So anyway, there was about a 4-pound difference, 4 pounds heavier. Of course, he's got the 220 Franklin up front, so he needs a little more on the tail, I guess. Although he's got some weight back here on the horizontal stabilizer. I'm not sure how that came about. But yeah, that doubler, I really like this doubler. I think the best part of this modification is the doubler. I think that's beauty. Strengthened all that back up again. And it looks good too. I think it looks kind of nice. All right, well, enough of that. I'm screw this thing on and move on. So we're getting on with this thing every 170 driver needs. It's a double shock absorber tail wheel made by T3, Super Cubs North, Alaska Bush Wheel distributed. Finally got it together. He did send me a new set of plates, which gave these bolts a different angle. and it looks to be about right when I put it down on the ground. I used AN 525 hardware throughout here. Super bomber. I don't know if you can see in there, but you can see all the hardware in there. And the shims that we put in here. And then Dan also supplied me with some shims out here that worked out pretty good because I put an 80,000 shim in there. It was just a little too tight. He bent these new brackets up for me. Good product support. They bent them up and sent them out to me right away. Yeah, I think, you know, I think it'll handle just about anything. I don't think it's gonna break off. If it's gonna break off, it's gonna bust somewhere up there. It looks pretty solid. Yeah. Should make the owner happy. We'll have to just go out and fly it around, see how it works. Put it on some gravel bars or something, huh? Probably beat up your horizontal next, but anyway, good deal. That's the installation of the T3 tailwheel on a Cessna 170B that has this type of tail as opposed to that one over there. A couple different years, a couple different tails, a couple different everything. Anyway, time to put the tail on. That's a pain in the ass. All right, we'll see you again.